This is the workbook. You might have already gone through it. If so, I'm just going to kind of add and layer in some content and some things. It'll feel familiar because you all know my ethos and like what I think artists are able to do in this world, because it's been proven by me, by you, by many, many of us, which is so cool. But I've had a lot of artists kind of like whispering things like, we're in a recession. It's impossible to sell our work at this time, which I think that's the easiest thing to think, just to be fully blunt with all of you who are in the room with me. I think that is the easiest and the most like band-aid way of being like, oh, yep, can't do it. It's a recession, when in reality it's not a recession. We're not in a recession. And also people that buy art are not actually feeling the recession in the way that other people, like for instance, maybe even you and I who run businesses, are feeling the recession because they're buffered in a way, or their jobs are secure in a way, or their life isn't necessarily changing as much as those of us that are, our pulse is on the market in a way, and we're feeling the ebbs and flows very intimately in a way that our buyers are not. So don't give them that energy. Don't give them that, like, you don't need to feed into that narrative, because it's not necessarily true for all of our buyers. Some of them, yes, of course, we have a like a very, very wide variety of buyers, of course. And everyone's feeling cautious and everyone's feeling uncertain about tariffs. And, there's a lot of things happening out in the world. What are the boys doing? Honestly, I'm like, what are you doing? Stop, just stop. But they're not stopping. So we'll have to just kind of roll with it and see what happens. This will be, I hope, a sweet conversation on selling within an ever-flowing market. So we're going to kind of talk about this in 3 different sections. I wanted to kind of give it the context of seasons, because having gone through a large variety, well, it's only 4 seasons, but having gone through all of the 4 seasons within the past few years personally, and having sat in winter in particular for a while, I think that analogy of like, you might be in an inner season. It might be winter, it might be summer. I was in summer for years. I could create without stopping. I was just like, go, go, go. There are other seasons where you might be tipping into like a spring energy, where you're like letting things grow inside of you, or you might be in a production energy, which is summer, or you might be in an energy of like celebrating and selling and like watching with gratitude the things that you have created kind of come to their natural progression of like, I did it and it's happening. And it's like, this is celebratory. Or what often happens, because we live in a world that doesn't allow for winter very well, you might be in winter. And what happens when you enter winter in a community or an environment or a culture that doesn't acknowledge that winter is a very natural part of the process, very natural part. There's nothing wrong with being in winter. You tend to get stuck in winter because you're not actually able to honor it and give it the rest that it needs. So we just kind of pretend it's not happening and like pile things on top and like try to push through. And there's just a lot of pressure to just fake your way through winter. And that prolongs it. It makes it even darker, and even like, that's where often artists sit in burnout for a long time, a very, very long time. We'll talk about creating within your own internal season, and then within the actual seasons, because the climate of your buyers will change with the seasons. And it's good to be aware of what is society thinking and feeling in a particular. It's so cute that we do this. Humans are so cute. Like in spring, we all feel a certain way. And in summer, we all feel a certain way. And then like the holiday season, we all feel a certain way. It's honestly very endearing. But it's also good to know as a business owner, like what's happening in the broader culture as far as the art market goes and sales go. So that is where we're going to head with this. Okay, let me screen share again. I'm not going to read this verbatim. You can download this and sit with it if you'd like to, but I'll just kind of give you my bigger bones. So as we begin this conversation and as you go through this workbook yourself, I would recommend that if you haven't thought about what season you're in, maybe you sit with that like thought process for a little bit first. You might be the kind of person that changes seasons with the actual seasons. I love those people. They make so much sense to me. I am not one of them, but I'm like, I love that for you. Um, your season might be a little bit like, for example, something might happen that might bring you into a winter season. Something might happen that might bring you into a spring or into a summer. Like, if you get an opportunity to do a show, you're going to instantly be like, and that's an inner spring that just woke up inside of your body. And then you enter into like ideation and into inspiration and then into the production of summer, which is often what we think of as summer, is like that production season. So things can happen like that will kind of like break your cycle, wake you up into a new cycle, or you might just be very organically doing your own thing and not let external, external things really affect you very much. Something will probably affect you. If we're being very real, we live in a multifaceted world, and something's probably going to like enter into your ecosystem and change things up a little bit. But I think just especially in a world that can be really robotic and masculine and driven by standards and processes and things that are really, really practical for a business, I think we often forget that as a creative, you are absolutely part of nature. You are not a machine. You are not a robot that can just go through the process and pump out things and like I just think it's important to acknowledge that, even if right now you feel like you are, and right now you're in a long summer. If I had told myself this in like 2014, I would have been like, yeah, actually, I'm good. I don't need this. I'm great, because I was in a very long summer, which was so fun. I'm like, can I get back there? Yeah, someday I will. Um, but that was a season of my life where I was like, I can do anything. I can create anything. People will buy it. I'm feeling this like ebb and flow, and it feels really, really good. And it was a fun season of like a lot of growth, which celebrate that if you're in it. Absolutely. But you're not a machine. And I found that out. And I don't want you to find that out the hard way. I want you to anticipate this cycle, this natural, like you will go from one season to the next. And it is part of nature, and you are part of nature. And I think that's really critical to the success of a long-standing, sustainable creative career. I think the artists that burn out don't acknowledge that and don't plan for it. So just a quick overview. What season are you in? Winter symbolizes rest, inward reflection. I often think that it also feels like healing, because whether you've gone through something hard or you've just given yourself to your work or to your life or whatever, that is an emptying. So you have to give yourself time to refill. And your winter might be a week, it might be 10 years. We don't have any, as I said, you can tip yourself in and out of seasons, but you also might need to let nature do its thing. So inward reflection, soaking in inspiration, just being really gentle. And the key word here is rest. Your energy state will be refilling, healing, contemplative, planning. But this is not a stage of doing. This is a stage of being like, what do I want? What's happening? How can I nourish myself? How can I, find that inner peace that I might need, knowing that the next season is more energetic and we're tipping into a more energetic cycle of the year. So really enjoy this time. This is a really fun time if you let yourself sink into the pleasure of rest. This is a sign of unhealth. Don't do this. But does anyone here feel like maybe they're getting a little sick and they're finally like, oh, cool, I can stay in bed all day tomorrow. I can't wait. That's actually a bad sign. Whenever I have that little thought, I'm like, oh, I just need to rest. Cool. I can just rest. I don't have to be sick to rest. But there is that little thing that's like, oh, this is my season. I get to just Netflix and chill. No, that's actually not, hold on. That's not the right thing. I get to just chill. There we go. And just be. It's okay. When I went through my separation, I was knocked into a winter because it was really, really traumatizing and not a very pleasant season of my life. So that took all of my creative momentum that I might have felt and just made it like, okay, I need to incubate. I need to rest. I need to let my children know that they are safe and loved. I need to create a safe and loving home. Like, we're going to just go inward for a little bit. Um, as someone that runs a business, this is where your systems come into place, because if you have systems in place, you can trust that they will hold you through your winter. And it can be a long winter if your systems are good and strong, and if the things that you can rely on are good and strong. This is also why I recommend having multiple revenue streams, because if you're relying on yourself to create new work and sell new work all the time, that doesn't allow for winter very easily, unless you get like a really, really big sale, and then you can be like, cool, I can rest for 2 or 3 weeks. If you have that built in and that moment happens, please take your rest, because you might not get it when when you get to that point of like, oh, I'm sick, I can rest tomorrow. We don't want to wait for that. Okay, let's talk about spring though, because spring, I think this is the most fun season. This is the season of, when you're like, ah, I have a fresh idea. I have a new thing. Like, I have this like glimmer of this hope, this excitement, all the nurturing that you did in winter, that restfulness that you gave yourself. Now it's like, wait, it's like falling in love again. And then just being like, there's this new limerence. There's a new, like, a seed has been planted and it's beginning to come up. And you're like, oh, hold on, what's happening here? Awakening, experimental practices or whatever, saying yes to sparks, saying yes to just like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to see what happens. Let's see what this brings. Oftentimes spring is a little bit short. We don't often sit in spring for years or for even months. I think spring is the season that you might invest in like classes, or you might go to retreats, or you might like give yourself space to go, I'm just going to explore for a little bit. But often this season is like a week to maybe a couple months long. I don't see people sitting in this season for a long, long time, because the magic of spring is you soon want to enter summer. Like, you're like, okay, cool. I love it. I'm excited. Now I want to go do it. So oftentimes spring is a pretty quick little season, which, enjoy it. It's so fun. It's so much fun. Summer symbolizes flow, making, doing, expressing. The energy state is active creation, riding the wave of productivity. This is where a lot of us tend to want to sit forever, for our whole entire lives. This is not possible, but it is a natural part of the process. And if you can like weave in little reminders that you are capable of living in summer throughout the other seasons. I like to do that personally. I'll have little moments where I'm like, I'm just going to make a mess. I'm just going to go create. I'm just going to try something new. And it can be a reminder that even in winter, I can do this. I got this. So I have that kind of like reminder of summer energy. Even if I'm not like naturally living in summer, I like to kind of like, okay, I'm okay. We're okay. This is all part of the process. Summer, often I feel summertime in summertime, which is really cute, just because of the energy around us. Autumn is one of the most gratifying seasons. It's when you've finished something big. It's when you've launched something big. You're selling, you're celebrating, you're harvesting, you're like living in that, the end of an era, and then planning to maybe rest a little bit, which again, when you're in autumn, you're not dying. You're not like, the end has come and now I'm like done. It's not a sad season. It's a season of like, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I'm going to share this. I'm going to release this. I'm going to let it like live and be. And now I can tip into like a bit of a break, a bit of a moment of resting. I just had this thought, winter, like when I feel this energy in autumn time in particular, it often feels like my winter that comes right after that feels like maybe like a week of no work, or it feels like after I've done something really big, I'll go on like a little trip. It feels so celebratory. Winter feels so celebratory. If you come through this cycle naturally, when you tip into that, like, oh, it's time to rest, it's like, I get to rest. And it feels so good, which is the goal always. So think about what season you might be in and what you might be feeling internally and naturally. And then it also gives you, we'll talk about this, but it also gives you the steps to take, like to enter into the next season, because you know where you are now and you know that you can kind of tip into the next one organically and naturally. When you're ready to, you can go from there. Okay. Any questions on seasons? We'll talk about them a little bit more. I have like a bit more down in the book, a little bit further down, but it's so sweet. Sarah says it's so interesting how reading your symbolism on energy states under the seasons. There are certain seasons I notice drawing towards, and one feels that, oh, but I have to do a lot to get there. Ooh, interesting. Affirmation for something so natural. Less permission, more acceptance. Absolutely. I jumped from winter to summer. I bet you had a day of spring. It can be that quick. So the problem with spring is it's my favorite season and it's so short. I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh, that was my spring. I love summer. Summer is my favorite one to be in. Obviously, it's the most, I think as a creative, it's the most gratifying, but spring is like that glimmer of knowing that you're alive and you're like, it feels like the inspiration tank is so full in spring. I think that's how it feels for me, at least. Have you ever experienced a false spring? Yeah, I feel like Liz Gilbert might call that like the big magic moment where you're full of an idea that's not meant for you. And it can kind of feel like, oh, damn it, I didn't do that. Oh, it's okay. I felt like that. Yeah, actually, it's a great way to put it, a false spring, because I felt like that when I had this really big idea for this abstract collection that might still be happening. I don't know. But I had that idea when I was like in my long winter, which was from like 2022 to 2023 for sure. And I had that idea in the middle of it and nothing happened because I wasn't ready to enter summer, but it was that idea of like, I'm still here. This is a sign of life. This is a sign of like the thing inside of me is still here and pulsing, even if everything outside of me feels a little bit heavy right now. So I think that fall spring is still a sign that, you know, you're still thriving deep down. I was forced into winter after a close bereavement and needed to support myself and family members. And straight after my busy in-person art events, I was exhausted. Luckily, I feel spring is literally around the corner. Oh, I'm so glad, Joe. I relate to that very, very intimately. Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. We can work through the like internal part of it. And know that, yeah, spring is around the corner and that thing that lives inside of you is still there. It's still gently waiting. That's part of the reason that I love Big Magic. I really, really do. But I think it encourages this, back to Sarah's word, it doesn't encourage a lot of accepting, it encourages a lot of action. And I think as a creative person, you can, of course, like take action, make your thing, do your thing, don't waste it. But also, maybe the idea was enough. Maybe the idea itself was the spring that you needed to remind yourself that that's all you needed. That's all you needed right now. Time for more artist dates. Absolutely. Part of the Big Magic like formula is to do the morning pages, of course, but then to have artist dates where you're doing something that's just to expand, like it's just like an expansion moment. Go to a museum. I also expanded it. She doesn't recommend this, but I told myself that my artist dates could be just playing with a new medium or like doing something in my studio. She would say that you should be like receiving inspiration somewhere external to your own creative practice. But I was like, I don't have time for that. I just want to try some new things in my studio. So I let it be that too. I used to work in fashion and we recharge weekly browsing patterns. Oh, that's so, yes, apply that to your art. That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's like going on a buying trip or going like whenever I travel, it feels like I'm just receiving so much information and inspiration. I feel like I'm in winter, but want to go into summer. Getting back into these trainings have been like a spring for me. Oh, that's so sweet to hear. But the exhaustion is real. As a teacher on summer break, I still need to plan for next year, etc. I think that makes a lot of sense. I would give yourself a week of real winter and being like, I'm just gonna rest. And then I bet maybe not even a week. You might not even need a full week. Oftentimes, if you're feeling incredibly depleted, oftentimes what we need is just the permission to be tired. Like it is okay to just be like, I have nothing. I have nothing for anyone today. And I don't know about you, but I need like maybe a week of that, but oftentimes, just in case it's helpful to like hear, take your own experience and run with that, of course. But sometimes it can be as little as like a day of that or 2 days of that. Be like, I'm not going to reply to any Slacks. I'm not going to fold any laundry. I'm going to order dinner. I'm doing nothing. It can be like 2 days. And then I'm like, oh, hi, I'm back. I'm good. So you might not need even like a long time, but take all the time you need, of course. Just don't take 20 years. I don't think that's necessary. Trying to start my creative business without burnout and laboriousness. I think that is a beautiful way to begin. Please. All right, let's dive back in. I feel like I go through micro seasons all the time. I feel like that actually might be, I should have said this. A season does not have to be this, I think I did say this, but it does not have to be the 3 month like structure of the year. And you might not be in the season that we're currently in. You might be in a completely different season. So you can absolutely go through like your seasons might be a week long, and that's completely valid. Okay, let's talk about the market because while it can be helpful to know what season we're in, we're still running businesses and we're still, trying to make it in this crazy, crazy world. So how do we sell in the season that we're in more globally, more like culturally, more broadly? Um, I think, as I said, I don't think we're in a recession. I think people are talking about that just to be a little bit, obviously listen to the economicist. Wait, what's their name? Economist. There we go. It was a tongue twister for me. Um, I am not one, and I do not pretend to be one, but I don't sense that we're in a full recession. So there is that. But I do think we're in a bit of a soft market, and people are, as I said at the beginning, people are a little bit more cautious. They're careful with their spending. Sales might be a little bit slower across the board. They are for many of us. In case you're like, am I alone in this? You're not alone in this. You're not. However, this is not a time to panic, and people who are here to buy your art are still here to buy your work. They want to invest in it. They want to enjoy it. Um, there's a person that I follow on TikTok that's an art buyer. He like goes around New York and just buys art all the time. It's his job, I guess. I don't even know. And he talks a lot about what he's sensing in the art market. And he's sensing that a lot of gallerists are like concerned, but his art buying friends are completely unconcerned. So, as I said, some of your buyers, not all of them, some of them are very, very much feeling the economic ups and downs as we are, especially if they run small businesses or if they, just are looking at things really, really closely from their point of view. But a lot of people that buy art are just a bit more cushioned from these ups and downs than we are. So keep that in mind. That's kind of a reassuring thing to know. But let's talk about how to just like sell your work regardless of who your buyer might be, whether your buyer is like completely unconcerned or they're incredibly concerned. At this time, through any economic up or down, this is going to be a tip that I would give you no matter what. Whenever you're selling your work, you are connecting with your buyer's emotions and their values. I don't mean monetary value. I mean like They have to really care about your work. And in an economic decline, if there's any kind of like dip in the market, this matters more than ever. Collectors want to create, they want to like invest in art that gives them some sense of purpose and some sense of like luxury. I need this. So yeah, definitely lean into that quite a bit more. If you're like, how do I sell my work? Not that you can like let go of the more like practical things, like, you know, the description of your work, the like ease of access, like how do you buy this, when do you buy this, like make all those things obvious still, but they do want to connect with you, with their value, with the value of your work, with the reason that they enjoy your work, whatever that may be. So if there's something that makes your work unique, just lean into that even more. Don't try to be like everyone else. Don't try to like wash yourself in this really palatable, like could be sold at home goods vibe. You don't, that's not actually going to get you anywhere in this market. Try to be more specific to who you're speaking to, why it matters to them. And I bet you'll be surprised at how broad that audience is. Oftentimes I think that one thing I see artists doing is thinking that narrowing down their message will exclude a large portion of the audience. When in reality, narrowing your message and saying, hi, I paint this thing from my childhood, or I paint this memory that speaks to like whatever. I'm speaking about painting, of course, but narrowing that down doesn't alienate your audience. It just says, this is why I did this. This is why it matters to me. And this is why it matters to you. And people that don't look like you expect them to look are going to be like, oh my gosh, I value that. Like I resonate with that. There's something in that, that even though my lived experience isn't exactly like yours, or I don't have the exact same correlation to your work that you do, I still want to invest in it because I see what you're doing. I see why you're doing it. And there's something in that that's like, oh, I love that. There's a resonance there. So let your resonance to your work come through even stronger right now. And I bet you're going to see that you attract people that you did not expect to attract. And also those that you're like, of course you're buying this. Of course you are. So that can be helpful. So think through this. This could be a helpful little practice to work through. My collectors are seeking, what are they seeking? And if this is like a little bit vague, what do you want? Like go back to the season that you're in. What are you seeking? And maybe you just write that here. And lean into that a little bit more strongly and know that in that, in your answer to this, you're going to attract people that have a similar desire at this moment. And I gave you some really vague examples here. You can be vague, but honestly, you guys are next level. This is for like people that don't understand what they're doing fully in every single way yet. If you can be more specific, I would recommend that. If you can be like, I am painting memories from my childhood, or I'm offering connection to loss and grief through beauty. I'm kind of giving you some examples here, but the more specific you can be, the better. Okay. Instead of pushing harder and risk sounding like a cliche or a salesman, try softening into sharing the emotion or a story behind your work. Help your audience feel what your art, whatever you're selling, evokes, and invite them into your process and why you made that piece or that thing. This is, I gave it a cute name, but basically this next tip is asking you to diversify your business. Because in a market that may have some ups and downs over the next couple of years, we don't know yet, having a diverse menu of things that you can sell will give you a way to hit different levels of the market. So for example, if I only sold commissions that were between, $5,000 and $12,000, that is great for a certain level of the market. And I might only need to sell a couple of those. So that's lovely. But my audience is not full of people that want to spend, 12,000 on a commission. They want to spend 85 on a print, and they want to spend 500 on a small original. Or there's just a variety of things that I can kind of tap into instead of just offering this one thing at this one price point. A lot of times artists have their work set at a certain price point and don't realize that there is space to go higher because they think that their original work is the highest that they can sell. So I recommend think about what you can do that might be a little bit higher, and then what you can do that might be a couple of tiers of lower price point items, just because it gives you space to kind of meet your market wherever they may be. And it also gives you space to encourage some repeat buyers, which is something that happens a lot. It happens a lot. Someone told me years ago that the easiest customer to attract is your repeat buyers versus new customers. And that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Especially if they had a good experience with you, which of course they did. So think through what can you create that would be back over here on the side over here, that lower price point. If it's helpful, start with your core price point here. What are you selling now? What works best? What's your favorite price point to sell, or your most like expected price point to sell, or what are you pricing most of your work at as it stands now? And then think, what can I do that would be in that lower price point? And then what can I do that would be in that higher price point? And you can, I gave you like space to write 3 things. You can write 15 things. You can write whatever fits your business, or different even tracks of your business. For example, in my studio side, we have the original, like I could do this just for originals. I could do this just for prints, and I could do this just for products. This kind of like tier pricing thing here. So you can think about it from that point of view, or you can think, I have my originals in this place here, I have my commissions, or I have my murals or whatever it may be in this space here, and then I have prints here. You could do that too. But if you're a little bit more ready to like be a bit more advanced about it, I would do this. I would find my low, medium, and high for each different section of my studio, because there's definitely space to like elaborate on all of those. Okay, a little check-in, go through this. This will be a little introspective moment. And I broke this up into you and into your business because they are different things and they have different needs, and you are not your business and your business is not you, which is a delineation that a lot of artists have to make as they like mature, because at the beginning, it feels like it's all just you, and therefore it's all just your business. It's kind of like intermixed. But as you begin to think about your seasons, learning that your business is separate from you and you can have systems in place that let your business thrive in whatever season it's in, which a business doesn't often go into a winter, or it doesn't often need to rest. It just kind of wants to produce and do its thing and keep thriving, which I love that for the business. Good for them. But you, the human, have to operate very organically within this fairly capitalistic vibe over here, which you can have ups and downs in your business, of course, because they will mirror each other. Because as a person running your creative business, it will ebb and flow with your energy, of course. But if you can do some things that will encourage your business to keep thriving while you get to rest, or you get to produce, or you get to find inspiration or celebrate, that's always the goal. So think about what you might need right now. You can check all of these. You can check one, but it's also that prioritization moment that can be really helpful, because especially in a place like the collective where we give you so much to dive into, it can be really helpful to prioritize, like, what do I actually need most right now? And can I go focus on just that one thing? Please do. Please do. And then what does your business need most? Don't check all of them. Check like 3, maybe 2 or 3. Start there. It can be easy to be like, I need everything. Yes, maybe you'll get to all of them. These can all be a priority at some point, but let yourself just kind of settle into what you need most right now. Okay, part 2, a seasonal sales map. So this is going to kind of bring us back to the actual physical calendar that we live within, the actual seasons that we live within, and how you can sell your work throughout all the different seasons and all the different kind of flows that we flow through. I'm going to zoom ahead. You can read this. Let's talk about spring. So again, this is thinking about the market itself, not your spring, the market. Okay. In spring, as I said, it's very, very sweet that we all kind of feel this collective like refresh energy. Spring is a really sweet season, I think, globally, because, or at least in the Western or Northern Hemisphere, because, well, both hemispheres, obviously. I'm thinking about like the timeline of like spring being from like March to May-ish, depending on the warmth of your area. March might feel like winter still. Um, but it's so sweet to kind of watch people breathe and like be and want to be outside and want to go on walks and want to be like in public together. It is a brush of fresh air. The marketing reality is online engagement increases as people start planning and purchasing to update their homes, to update their spaces. People get tax refunds and they often want to revitalize their space. Spring cleaning, they do some Marie Kondoing. They begin looking at interior design trends. Interior design trends are very popular in the spring. Anyone that's had that like crossover of being in the design world versus just in the art world, you probably know that early in the year, like February, March, people begin thinking about design trends for the year. They begin making updates on their homes. They begin planning on like renovations, things like that. So interior design trends are at an all-time high, and that also bleeds into like our world really, really beautifully. Oh my gosh, this hyphen did not fit at a very cute place. People are psychologically, there we go, and emotionally ready for something new and beautiful. I should have fixed that. Spring selling focus, pre-sales, early bird collection announcements, studio refreshes, clear the wall sales, offering commissions for the year, welcoming new followers, behind the scenes content, ideal for launching bright, hopeful, nature inspired work. These are just random ideas. Take what fits you, leave what doesn't. But spring is a very, very good time for selling, mostly because of this energy here. And then also, the fine art world is absolutely buzzing with energy between the Met Gala, the auction houses having their big auctions in May. Spring is definitely an energy, like galleries are opening up and like things are happening. Art fairs are either like booking or you have to apply for them or they're actually happening. So the art scene is definitely coming back to life in spring, and it feels really palpable in the market, which is really fun. Okay, a little thing you can fill out here if you're interested in like creating your spring collection. Summer represents flow, making, doing, expressing. Your energy is probably active in creation mode, riding the wave of energy and light. We love it. We're in it right now. I love it so much. This is your space. I feel like to play, to try new mediums, to play creatively, to allow your work to expand just a bit. Use the energy around us, use the light, use the vitamin D, use the sunshine. It definitely can be a very, very powerful time to be a creative. I mentioned at the beginning that it can be a trickier time to sell art, but I've also sold a collection every single summer since 2015, and they've all sold very, very well. So yes, broadly, globally, this is not the most art buying season, but it's worked great for me. So I think it kind of depends on your work, maybe a little bit also. If your work like lends itself towards that sense of adventure and sense of like exploration that happens in the summertime, then it might sell really, really well. So maybe that's part of that reason also. Online sales may dip, but tourism, gallery, foot traffic, if you have your working galleries, make this a really big emphasis. That tends to spike in the summer. People are traveling, exploring, and often discovering new artists in person. So if you have any space to do like an in-person pop-up, an art fair, that kind of thing can be really, really powerful. Buyers are more emotional. People are gooey and emotional in the summertime. They're so cute. They're like with their families and they're with their kids and they're maybe a little tired and a little bit hot and sweaty, but they're like we're feeling our feelings, and it's very sweet. So they often want to purchase things based on a story, especially if you create anything that could be placed in a location, um, especially a location that has some kind of like tourism, or people come to visit, or they come, that kind of thing. Lean into that, because people might come to that location and be like, I have to buy this. I can't believe I experienced this. It has that like memory nostalgia woven through it right away, which is so sweet. Um, Marketing focus on process driven content, so you can share while you're in that high production of like, whether you're in your inner summer or just physical summer, that like energy of being in the studio, of doing your thing. Share that. That's really, really fun to get to see that like behind the scenes from an artist. And also, I think it's also worth noting that whether you're an artist or not, which we all are, but your audience, whether they're an artist or not, they are probably also feeling that creative energy. People get very crafty in the summertime. They want to go to camps. They want to do a lot of things with their hands. They want to like just, there's more physical energy happening. So sharing your creativity is going to kind of hit them in a place where they're already very receptive to it. They're not incubating and like hibernating in their little cubicles in the wintertime. Like that, the energy in the room is already this like, we're all doing things vibe. So share your process. Mini collections, color drops, casual offerings, workshops. These can all be really, really powerful things right now. If you're ready for a pro move, reach out to editors. So this is looking towards the fall, but the time to reach out to editors for your holiday promotion is the summer. So that would be like next month, just to keep you all in the loop. So begin to reach out. That's for a larger publication. They're usually working about 6 months in advance. A smaller publication might be working about 3-ish months in advance. So keep that in mind. Sales tip, if you live in a touristy area, I said this. Gallery or shop sales can spike. Reach out to local spots and display with a display that catches the light and draws people in. I love selling in the summer. I think it's genuinely very, very fun. I know I said that it's a down time, because it is, but I think, again, back to that, like share what connects you with your work widely with your audience. That the summertime is a really easy time to do that. I think people are already very receptive. So I think that's why I'm like, it's actually so easy for us, which is nice. Okay, September through early December. So I think autumn also encompasses the holiday season, which I know I'm always like, I think that winter is holiday season, but it's not. The autumn is holiday season. So in that, we're going to look at some holiday sales strategies. September is that little bit of a tipping point before the holidays begin. For us, they've begun. Obviously, we know we're prepping things. We're, getting our ducks in a row for the holiday season to roll out smoothly. But it is a bit of a time where it's like that in between, like summer and winter, summer and fall. So I think that's wonderful. But the holiday season is often, as we all know, one of the best sales seasons for artists. So this begins in the fall, which is crazy. Full launches, limited edition classes or workshops, giftable items for shopping for the holidays. Classes. So back to kind of thinking about like pre-holiday and post-holiday, or like, pre-holiday and then holiday. Classes, workshops, retreats are extremely good pre-holiday. People are ready to learn. They want to be cozy. They want to invest in themselves. They have just spent so much energy on people in their lives for the whole summer. We often leave summertime feeling kind of like exhausted and depleted because we just did so much, and we like traveled and we're with kids, and it was hot and it was sweaty and it was fun. But also we leave the summer being like, okay, who am I and what am I doing and what can I learn and what can I do? So the fall is a really sweet time to offer like any kind of educational content, any kind of workshop. It could be online or in person. That can be really, really sweet and fun. Giftable items, shopping for the holidays. And then as we enter the holiday season, which is often like mid to late October through December, as you all know, I like to have one big marketing push per week. You could do once every other week, find your rhythm. You don't have to do, you know, be sustainable for you. But for me, once per week works really well. And that's kind of my personal like flow for marketing and selling during the holiday season. Start actively planning in December for holiday sales. You can photograph your work, you can write and design emails. The more you can do to make the holiday season more easeful, the better. So as much pre-work as you can do, the better. I have a little tiny mini, you all have the more advanced version of this inside of the collective. So this is just a little like cheat sheet, but here's a little tiny, very brief overview of how to do a collection launch or any kind of product launch. You know this, but this might be helpful to just kind of see it here. And then winter. So the holiday season is wrapping up. We tip into January, February, and March. Allow yourself to rest. You just worked so hard during the holiday season and then, the rest of the year before that. December and January are a really good time to encourage gift giving. Even January, by the way. I know we think that it ends in December, but oftentimes, we probably have experienced this. You go through the holiday season, you have either been given a gift card or you weren't given what you really, really, really wanted, or you were given some money over the holidays, by a nice grandmother or something. I get a lot of sales in the beginning of January, and I can tell that the sales are people that were buying what they wanted and they didn't get, or they just have the funds to do it now or whatever. So that can be sweet. I do like to encourage gift card sales in December. So that could be a nice way to encourage those January sales also. But you can also spend your energy sending out final shipments, wrapping up the holiday season. There's always things that, kind of get pushed to January, and that's very, very normal and completely okay. Express gratitude to your collectors, softly close or open the year with care, spend some time with your goals, your aspirations. Winter selling focus, you can take these or leave these, but some ideas: studio clean out or archive release. We just did that. It was so much fun. Sharing intentions, flexible payment options, mini drops. Often this season does feel like people are kind of keeping their wallet a little bit more closed. So just kind of think about that. Again, it's not like shut and locked. It's just their habits are a little bit more, we're all kind of resting. We've all spent a little bit of money in the holiday season, most likely. So oftentimes in the winter, it's just a little bit more like, how can you encourage those sales in a way that feels like a studio clean out sale? Like, you can't miss that. That's so exciting. Payment plans are really generous to offer. I like to do mini drops also. It could be like a little collection of 8 things or 6 things. So think about that. Personal development workshops of any kind, classes. This could be painting workshops, coaching, drawing, anything that you can teach, you could teach. A sales tip: an excellent time for new year, new art messaging, helping collectors envision a fresh start with your work. We're beginning to tip into the interior design focus for the year. So as we kind of warm up a little bit, especially like March-ish, it can be a great time to focus on making your home really, really beautiful, investing in art. That can be a nice focus. Okay. Any questions about this? I know I kind of like breezed through a lot in that, and I had the chat closed. Oops. I'm feeling like that right now after 1 week workshop and going right into a weekend show, trying to relax in between so I can restart my creativity. A little tiny micro winter, Vivian. I love that. I get new inspiration by gardening, which is perfect for me since I'm a floral artist. Laura, your flower paintings they're in the back of my brain all the time. They're so beautiful. It ignites me and gives me the desire to share with the world through my art. I love that. Also, that's a really sweet thing to think about. If your work is focused on a particular subject matter, like Laura, yours is like focused on your garden and your flowers and the things that you actually grow. Um, Thinking about, like, as a landscape painter, I can do this too, thinking about how my subject matter changes throughout the year. That's also something that I think about for my work itself. And because humans are so sweet, we're more likely to buy things that we're physically currently seeing if it's reflected in the art that we're also seeing. So that's why I said in the summer, or maybe I said it in spring, I'm not sure which one it's in, but work that has those like vibrant pops of color to kind of wake you back up. The tonal shifts of our creative work can also be a selling point throughout the year. So in the winter, think about creating collections that feel more cozy, like the colors are deeper, the colors are a little bit more muted. Maybe Laura, in the spring, you focus on like those buds that are just about to open, but they're not quite there, because like people are actually physically seeing that and they're drawn to it. And then they see you paint it and it's like, oh, that's so beautiful. My grandmother bought a hideous painting, in my opinion. Actually, no, it wasn't hideous. It was just sad. It was such a sad painting. And as a kid, I was like very receptive to that. And it made me not want to look at it. But it was a painting of the cornfields of Ohio where she used to live. And the corn was like falling down and it was a gray sky and it was like mud and dead corn. And I was like, I hate this painting. It's so sad. But to her, she bought it in the middle of winter when she was seeing corn that had like fallen over and it was sad looking to me. But she thought it was so beautiful because it was so real. It was so like realistic to the lived experience. And I'm like, it's just a depressing painting. But okay, different people like different things, obviously. And she loved her corn painting. But that's a good example of some artist was, painting exactly what they were feeling and seeing in the moment. And my grandmother was like, yes, that's real. That's so real. Ah. I used to think that during poor markets to teach, I started outlining my teaching during the first month of COVID, but now it's so healing for me to create my art during these dips. I think that's a great idea. Classes are fine. I'll come back to it as needed. Planning classes can be very consuming and distracting for me. I might revisit days for teaching versus studio time. So that's a really sweet way of looking at this. There are always going to be market ups and downs throughout all of our lives, as we know. If you're feeling a decline right now, trust the process, the economic process, our process. Trust that you will see this through and use this as a time to just focus on creating more. And you don't have to worry so much about sales right now. Of course, keep it sustainable, provide for yourself always. Credit card debt is not the way to go. But if you can just kind of refocus a little bit, like do what I need to do to like keep this thing floating and thriving. My focus is going to be on creating because I know this market that we're currently feeling is going to end. It's going to. Things are always cyclical. The market is one of the things that is working within its own seasons. So what season would be best for a wholesale launch? Oh, thank you for saying that. I didn't put that in this book, Dana, but that's a really, really good question. Retail stores are purchasing the most, depending on the season that they're heading into, they're also about 3 months ahead of schedule. So for the winter, you want to get your name in their ear. I would say in like, if you're looking for holiday sales, I would begin reaching out to them in like June, July, and then just keep that refreshing, like be in their inbox once a month or twice a month throughout the holiday season. They may buy things up into, like, let's say they want it to be on their shelves in November. They may buy things up through November, but they're probably, looking at stocking their shelves and getting things purchased earlier. Especially that would also scale based on the size of the boutique or shop or retail store. For example, Anthropologie is working a full 9 to 12 months in advance, probably actually like 12 to maybe 13 or 14 months in advance. A small boutique is maybe working like 3 months in advance. So it depends on the scale of the location too. Good question. You can also, not that they may not reply, but you could also ask the buyer if you're in a conversation with them, or have that kind of connection with them. I love to walk into a boutique, like walk into a local boutique where the owner is friendly and kind, and just ask questions. I learned so much by walking into a local boutique, and I would ask the owner about like what was it like going to the Atlanta art market, not art market, I'm sorry, the Atlanta what's that show called? It's like a retail wholesale show. I forgot what its name is, but I asked her because she was there and I happened to see her afterwards. And I was like, "Oh, tell me about it. Like, as an artist, I'm actually really curious about this. Like, what were the booths like? How did you feel? Where did you go?" And she told me so much. She just wanted to like gab about her experience. If you can find someone like that who just is willing to just kind of chat on a Tuesday morning, or whatever morning, a more chill time, you'll learn so much about how that system works from their point of view and what they're looking for. Also, go and listen to the wholesale content in the collective. Sky, can you put a link to that? I'm thinking of Zen. Oh my gosh, I've been talking too much and my brain it's stopped working. Meg from Zen Succulent, is that the name of the brand? Yes. I'm like, what's the name of this shop? Is that the right name? Okay, good. I'm a genius. Her interview was so like, she was that shop owner just chatting with us and telling us how this works from their point of view and what they're looking for. And I think that'll be really helpful if you're like, how does this work? She was great. Okay, let's see here. I have a couple more things I want to point out before I'm just going to send you off with this workbook and you can go through it at your own pace, please. But 7 tips, I'm just going to read the tips and then you can dive into the ones that you're like, oh, I need more on that. This is a little bit more in depth. I know I scrolled through really, really quickly. I scrolled through, right here. What you can do for selling in a soft market and what is a soft market and are we in one? I think we are, but like, how do we do this? Okay. 7 tips that are a little bit deeper now that we understand the market that we're working within and we understand what we're doing here. Number 1, position your work as an accessible luxury. These are all tips specifically for working in, like, for selling your work in economic uncertainty. So when people are like, is it a recession? I don't know. They're feeling their nerves. These are specifically tips for this energy. They may not be needed next year. I hope they're not. But right now, these are really, really helpful tips. And I think they do kind of span markets. So an accessible luxury is one of the like quickest ways to position your work in the market as a thing that is worth buying, even when we're in a full-on recession, which we're not, but even if we were, people still want luxury. They still want lip gloss. They still want that pretty thing that makes them feel happy. They still want to buy an avocado, even though groceries are expensive. They still want that accessible luxury. If you can position your work as that accessible, but still that high-end thing that like, I'm going to make this feel so good for you. I'm going to make sure that this purchase is so like lovely and so special. I'm watching this happen in real time because my daughters now have their own money. Not a lot. They have actually very little, but they have to buy their own clothes and their own food when they're not with me. And it's just a whole thing. They are spending their money on accessible luxuries. They buy like a certain small travel size perfume and it comes in this pretty case and they keep the case and they want it to be like, this is so special. I'm like, that is accessible luxury. That's perfect. So if you can keep your work in that category, you're very, very likely to get buyers that want to buy your work no matter the market. And this would be things like, obviously sharing how beautiful it is, sharing how it will be packaged, sharing how much it will just kind of change their room. And then this part, a lasting investment, that's really important too, because for the logical buyers, those that don't just want that luxury moment. The lasting investment mix, it says this is available now. It will be valuable to you through this moment and then, forever and ever and ever, which is lovely. Okay, multiple price points and payment options. I mentioned this one above because it is very important in every market, but especially in any kind of economic uncertainty when your buyers might be feeling uncertain. Multiple price points will keep your business afloat. I cannot stress this enough. It is very important. So think about this. Think about ways that you can attract the same buyer to two different things or more than, one thing. How you can, some buyers just want to come in and only buy that high price item or that luxury item. Some want to come in and buy a $35 print and that's all they want. They feel like that is their version of accessible luxury. And I'm all for that kind of purchase. That's beautiful. But having multiple price points is really, really important. Focus on gifting and special occasions. Read more about that. Build relationships through storytelling. I mentioned this above. This was point number 1 from the area up there. But during uncertain times, people connect more deeply with human stories behind the purchases. So share your creative process, your inspiration, and even think about your own buying patterns. I'm going to use my kids as an example again. If they walk into Sephora, they're more likely to buy something that they know the artist behind the product than just the Sephora brand, because they want to have that connection. If Billie Eilish ever comes out with a lip gloss line, they are going to be all over it. They will own all of them because they have that personal connection to the artist in a way. My daughter went to see SZA in concert and she got there 5 hours early to go stand in line to buy a lip gloss that SZA was selling. And I'm like, you know what, girl, that's your accessible luxury. And you have that connection to the whole story, the whole thing. So do not shy away from sharing your stories, from sharing your connection, especially during the summer when people really want to have that sense of connection and adventure and self-expression. It can be a great time for that for sure. Leverage local community and word of mouth. The first piece of advice I ever got for running a business was to start local. And I'm so glad. It was very, very helpful. It can be a far more advantageous bang for your buck as far as your marketing energy goes to start local for sure. And local can be online. It doesn't have to be your local physical community. If you have a local community that's online, how do I say this? Sometimes your community might not feel like it's your space, and that's fine. You'll find a niche space with an online community that might feel more like that's my people. For example, my friend Haley Torres creates lesbian artwork. Her local community where she lives is not going to sustain her, and that's fine. She's found her community online in that way. So you can think about that a little bit if that's helpful to if you're I don't think my local people are the right space for me. No worries. Just find your community and really invest in that space. Create urgency through limited availability. This is always a good tip. We talk about this a lot. Scarcity can be a bit of a thing that artists shy away from, but we are also the queens of scarcity. You only have one painting. You cannot paint that thing ever again. It is scarce. It is precious. So leaning into that is actually a really, really sweet thing because it makes your work more valuable. You don't have to be nasty in your marketing. You don't have to be you don't have to say anything that doesn't feel genuine to you, but this is a one of a kind, precious thing that you can only create one time. So there's that. Or you're only creating 5 prints, or you're only doing this for a month, or whatever it may be. You're a limited person, which means that your offers are very limited. So sharing that creates a little bit of urgency and a little bit of come on, take some action. Let's go. It's always good. Provide exceptional customer service and follow-up. Repeat buyers are the most easy to acquire buyers. And this is how you get them, is by being this kind of that was a good experience vibe, Okay, that's what I have to share with you today. Any questions, any things that come up for you as you think about your business and your internal season, your external season, the market we might live in, you know. Dana says I chatted with a couple of months ago, and I'll reach back out now that they're a little bit closer to being ready. I've watched the collective classes already, and they're so helpful. Good. I think, yeah, not the problem, but the thing with wholesale is it is a little bit of a consistency game. So just be in their inbox, have a system. I recommend if you're the kind of person that does spreadsheets, even if you're not, this is the time to do a spreadsheet. Just have a spreadsheet of the shop, the buyer that you've talked to, when you sent an email, when you're going to send a follow-up email, maybe 3 or 4 follow-up emails, just kind of like be in their, in their space. Whenever you launch something new, it's completely appropriate to be like, hello, my next collection is available. I'm really excited about it. I'd love for you to check it out. Here's put an image in the actual email itself. Yeah, that could be helpful. Are there any storytelling workshops in the collective? Ooh, good question. I struggle with this. Sky mentioned that we have a copywriting guest expert in August. So that'll be really, really helpful for sure. I think storytelling is just the kind of thing that for me, it feels very overwhelming to think about telling a story. It's just like, what is that? How do you do it? So I like to get very narrow with it and to think, what can I say about this one experience in this one point of view from this one moment? And then kind of go from there. And this might be personal, and we all have our different like styles for wanting to communicate, but the more niche and the more like narrow I can get with the story, the more I feel like it did the story justice. Good question. All right, everyone, ready to go create something? Enjoy your summer, your daylight. I love it. The collective opens for enrollment on the 5th. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but 2 days from now, I have some emails to write. But we open in 2 days, and I would love for you to share with people that you know would love this space and would get a lot out of it. All right, I'll see you all next time. Thank you for being here today.